Organized Grind with Oracle Uno.
Yes, yes.
Recorded live at Graph Fruit Studios in South Minneapolis.
Yes, y'all. We are back in full effect. This is Organized Grind, the podcast. I am Oracle Uno. Today we got episode 25, the Memorial Day edition. We got another very special guest of the Twin Cities hip-hop scene. Goes by the name of CMJ. Why don't you say what's up, CMJ?
What's going on? How you doing?
Yeah, doing pretty good. How about yourself, man?
I'm just a little burned from Soundset, so I'm kind of trying to, I guess keep the pain away. I took a shower today because I didn't even take a shower last night after everything was all said and done, and it feels good to kind of like not be covered with dirt and...
Sure. So Soundset just went down yesterday at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds. How was your experience out there?
It was dope. Yeah, I've gone every year since like the first festival in 08, so this is the 12th year. And yeah, it's crazy just every year to go to kind of like see how it's progressed
Sure.
Since back then. And yeah, I mean, I just love like running around trying to catch everything, especially like as I met more people in the scene. Like it's fun to kind of like, when you know a bunch of acts that are playing, or you just know so many people around or running booths, and it's like you're just looking for everybody. It's like a big reunion. Yeah.
So what was 2019 like for you?
It was really fun. Like ran into a bunch of people, like and just there was like a lot of the acts I had seen before, because every year there's always like at least like a few acts that I've never seen that I always try to make sure that I really wanted to see. So like this year, the one that I had never seen before was Lil Wayne.
Oh, dope.
So that was dope to catch him.
And he actually showed up.
Yeah,
dope,
I know everybody was kind of, that was like the big fear that like him and DMX were going to be maybes, but they both were there. Yeah, because DMX I had seen a few years ago at the Zombie Pub Crawl, but he got there so late that they had to they extended the curfew, but it was still so late that they cut his mic halfway through his set.
Oh, sure.
So to actually see like a full set from him this time was really dope, and he was like one of the best sets of the day. Like he killed it.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, no, there's a lot of dope acts. It was dope to see like some like local people to play it for the first time. Like my friend Student One, he played. He was one of like the first acts over on the Atmosphere and Friends stage, and the crowd was like super into that. So yeah, it's just fun to see that kind of stuff, like people that have been at it for a long time, and then when they finally like get on that kind of showcase, like just to kind of see like all these people embrace them, like it's
dope.
It's dope.
Since we're on the topic, you have said that you've been going to Soundset for quite a while now. Mm-hmm. What are just some of your favorite moments, highlights, or like biggest changes that you've noticed throughout the years of Soundset?
Well, I mean, definitely just in terms of the amount of people that are there, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think the first year, well, I was actually just listening to like a podcast the other day with The Current did. They were talking to like Sadiq and Slug and Jay Bird about kind of the origins of it. And I think like they were saying like the first year they were only expecting like 7,000 or 8,000, which would have been dope, but I think they got like 13,000 or something.
Oh,
so like that kind of set the tone. And then every year since then, I think I don't know what the official number was yesterday, but I heard it was like around 40,000.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, because the first year was at the Metrodome parking lot, and then it was at Canterbury for a while. Now it's like the State Fairgrounds. So I mean, yeah, just to see how it's grown, and like every year there's always like little things I notice where like, oh, they have extra monitors at this stage.
Sure.
There's like, so it just, they keep refining it, which is cool. Like they keep kind of taking little pieces of feedback, and I've talked to some people at Fifth Element, and they're kind of they're always kind of trying to like make it better every year.
Yeah.
And like I was talking to somebody the other day, like it's funny to think like the first year, it was, I mean, they had some out of town acts, but it was mostly local people, mostly Rhymesayers, and then I think back to like the 10-year anniversary where they had like Travis Scott headlining, and there was like an animatronic eagle on stage.
Yeah.
Where you kind of think it's like crazy to think where it started, where it's like, yeah, it's like a big dope local event, and now there's an animatronic eagle on stage. Like that's some other shit. Like,
straight up.
like the theatrics just off the charts, and like
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just wild to think about like how it's and then that's the thing too, is how they've just expanded out now, where it's like, you know, there's really no act that they could book without, I would think like, oh, that doesn't seem possible that Soundset could do that. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, they have some of like the biggest rappers now playing it, like Lil Wayne, J. Cole, you know, Migos, and I mean, just artists that are literally like the biggest artists in the world, like playing Soundset. So I mean, it's cool to have like the fact that the Twin Cities has that every year is wild to me.
For sure. Have you ever gotten to play?
I have not gotten to play.
Okay.
Hopefully one of these years.
Yeah, man. Okay. Well, shit, man. Let's get into the beginning. So, CMJ, Christopher Michael Jensen. Where did you grow up? Where did you come from?
So I've lived in Minnesota my whole life. I got into hip hop. Well, even before I got into hip hop, like as like a kid, I was always kind of into like, you know, like kind of artsy, you know, like comic books and video games and Star Wars and and all that type of stuff. Kind of my first like memories with music. You know, I just remember like my brother. This is back in like the '90s, like just listening to like kind of like alternative rock radio and that sort of stuff, like Smashing Pumpkins and Nirvana and all that kind of stuff. I didn't really get into hip hop per se. Like my earliest memories of hip hop were like MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice, Criss Cross, like 1990. Right.
So can you like remember like a particular song that like sticks out maybe?
I mean, like I said, I was like 3 or 4 years old, and I think, you know, you can't touch this.
Okay, yeah,
and
man, sure.
Ice Baby.
Yeah.
And I remember like, yeah, when I was like in kindergarten, my brother had the Criss Cross album. I think it was called Totally Crossed Out.
Okay,
with like Jump. And
yeah, man.
And so like, that was like my earliest memories of hip hop was that, and like, you know, so hip hop was, I mean, I was always like aware of it. I didn't really have like an opinion. Like, I wasn't like a diehard hip hop fan at that point, but like, you know, it was like, I don't really remember there ever being like one kind of music that I was into when I was really young, you know, because you'd listen to, like I said, like rock radio, you'd hear some stuff like that. Like I would get like movie soundtracks for my birthday, and like, you know, so it was just kind of a lot of that kind of stuff. And it wasn't, and I think like the first music that I really got into, and part of it was just because it was like just weird and different to me, and I liked that kind of stuff, was like my brother, I saw a video for Daft Punk when I was like in 4th grade.
Wow.
For the song Around the World, and I remember just like, this is really weird shit. Like, and so my brother got me that CD for my birthday, and so I just kind of started getting into like a lot of like old like techno electronic, like Daft Punk, Chemical Brothers, Fatboy Slim, Moby. And so I was just kind of into just, like I said, like different stuff. It wasn't like my friends at school were listening to that kind of music. It was just, this is kind of weird, cool shit.
Yeah.
And
so how was the music? How were you exposed to it, I suppose?
Well, that kind of music, I mean, I think I just saw, like for the Daft Punk song, I think I just saw like a video on MTV, like just randomly.
Yeah.
I think my brother was watching some show. I don't even remember what show it was, but just, and it, you know, it was just, and so we would like, because my brother was always like really deep into music. Like he knew a lot about music.
Okay.
So he was like up on hip hop and like, you know, some underground or, you know, kind of just indie type of shit.
Was it the kind of thing where like you would like look through his like albums and stuff, you know, like just kind of like, holy shit.
I think, well, because when I was younger, I think, well, we would like go to like Best Buy, and he would, you know, like if he knew I was like into like Daft Punk or something, like, oh, you should check out, because he would kind of know some of the artists.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, I wasn't, you know, he was the one that probably had to tell me like who the Chemical Brothers were. Like, oh, this is, if you like that, you probably like it. And so I was just kind of, you know, getting stuff like that. Like Weird Al Yankovic was another artist, and I was really, I remember being really into.
Hell yeah.
But no, I think when I really started kind of like getting into hip hop specifically, though, I was 13 years old. This was 2000. I was in 7th grade.
Okay.
And I remember I came home one day, and I think my brother was playing some like rap song down in my, you know, in my family's basement. And And this was when like Napster had just come out. So like him and like people were really starting to burn CDs a lot. And so like my brother had like all these albums that he was just starting, like this is like when I kind of discovered what MP3s were. Yeah. And like so we had like a bunch of like folders on our computer that my brother was like getting all these albums from his friends that he was like storing up, and like just random songs in like this big MP3 folder. And so, and we'd like drive around because my brother had probably gotten a license fairly recently around that time, and you know, he'd play burn CDs he had of just like compilation or just like mixes he would make of just rap. So I'm like hearing all this shit for like the first time. Yeah. Like DMX, like really old Cash Money, you know, Dr. Dre, you know, and so like that was kind of my first like first memories of like just kind of like where I was starting to kind of get into the music, not just like I said, like with like MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice, Crisscross. I mean, I could listen to that a little, but it wasn't like I was like seeking it out. Especially when I'm 4 years old. You know what I mean? But at that point, then, like I said, because it was all like if I heard something I liked, or I could just go download something on Napster, or my brother would. So it's like at this point, I'm getting shown a bunch of shit. So like I didn't even really have a lot of like hip hop CDs then. It was just like a lot of like MP3s. So I kind of started getting into it, and my brother and his friends, they did like a talent show where they were just kind of, I think it was kind of like, you know, just jokey rap, kind of just sort of like caricature rap of like, you know, let's make like a bling bling song and you know, wear like 8 watches, just kind of like a joke type of thing. And so like they kind of were doing that, and so I kind of saw, it'd be kind of fun to rap. And again, it wasn't like when I started doing it, it was like I'm gonna become a serious. It was just kind of like this might be kind of fun to try out. So I kind of started just sort of writing raps a little bit, and like recording just whatever stuff on like a handheld tape recorder when I was like, cause I said like I was 13, summer of 2000. That was also the same year that B96 came out, if you remember that station.
Yeah, man. Oh, of course.
So it was kind of like
that like first month that they came out, like they were actually really dope. Like they were pretty fire.
I think at the time that was like the fastest like growing station in like Twin Cities history. Because that was the thing, was at that time it was just kind of like crazy how, you know, okay, all of a sudden I'm kind of exposed to all this music and I'm getting into it. And then, all of a sudden now we have a hip-hop station in the Twin Cities.
Right. And, so if I could just slow down just a little bit. So what town did you live in at the time when you started to really get into hip-hop? 13, 14.
Minneapolis.
Okay. So where did you go to school at the time?
The schools that I went to actually don't even exist anymore. They were like little. I went to like a private Lutheran school. Over in Edina when I was like in grade school. And then my dad was a teacher at a little Lutheran school in Bloomington. The high school that I went to, the building, if you remember that mosque that got bombed. That used to be my high school. And then it went out of business a few years after I graduated. And because it was a really tiny school, and then it got bought by like a Muslim organization, and then that was really crazy, because like I'm seeing like Al Jazeera playing like clips of my of my old classroom with like fucking the windows blown out. So that's wild, a little man. But yeah, so I mean, and that was the thing too, was it wasn't like, you know, like at that time too, you know, I wasn't even aware of any kind of like local scene. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just kind of like most of my kind of like, I was getting a lot of the, you know, the exposure from my brother. And then, you know, when you're in like 7th grade, you know, it's like, that's around the time when people kind of start getting into like, you know, maybe different kinds of music. You're kind of like discovering your own shit.
Yeah, because I was about to ask, you know, if maybe you had friends at school that were kind of into hip hop too, because that seems to be the recurring theme amongst a lot of MCs, is that it seems to start within that like high school age, and like people who kind of are into hip hop are now starting to magnetize towards each other, and then that's when one catches that one raps or makes beats. And so I was just curious as to
I had friends,
if you were around hip hop culture or if it was primarily through your family that you were getting.
Yeah, my brother, like I said, my brother was the one that kind of put me up on shit, and like
sure.
This was around the time when, because this is summer of 2000, so like that was like right after the Marshall Mathers LP had come out.
Okay.
And that was right when like, DMX was huge.
Yeah.
And, Jay-Z was huge. Like Big Pimpin' was like the song of the summer. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So that was around that. So it's like, and that's like some of the biggest music in the world. So of course I had like friends that were, into like top 40 hip hop. You know what I mean?
Because I would like imagine too. So like with Eminem, like that might be a bit much for the kind of school that you were at, maybe, or
we were all into Eminem.
Okay.
Sure. And the thing about that
just
too.
Just curious.
Yeah, no, and the thing about that was like, we were kind of like, that was like. To this day, Eminem is like my favorite MC of all time. Like I came up on that, and that was like the. That was like, if you think about the kind of the age of like, you're 13 years old and an artist like Eminem shows like South Park, like that's kind of like, this is the crazy,
that was the shit,
over the top shit that's like, because I was like really into professional
wrestling too, right?
So it's like you think about what was going on around that time, like with Stone Cold, Steve Austin, exactly. So like all that kind of shit, it was like like this edgy kind of like very abrasive, in your face type of shit, and
those are the days.
Yeah, absolutely. So my friends, we were into all that shit. It's like I said, my friends weren't, and even me at the time. We weren't into like some underground shit yet, but like
right.
We were, we were into what was the popular rap of the day, and like that was the kind of stuff that when I was starting to get into it, like I said, I kind of slowly started writing raps, and like I said, it wasn't good. It was just, you're just trying to figure out what the fuck you're even doing.
Right. So you had started at that joke kind of rap just for fun, right?
Yeah, and it was just, silly shit, over the top shit about me and my brother would write over the top, gangster rap songs about just farcical type of shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like
just being young young dudes.
Just let's make some, crazy wild whatever shit.
Right.
And so and like I said, it was not like anybody was trying to like do it as a career or thinking really like that. It was just kind of like but the thing that kind of I guess maybe made me start like, I could actually maybe try to start making this into something a little bit more was, I think part of what it was this was also around the time when like home, like the first kind of wave of like home recording software. I had my brother had got this program from his friend. This would have been, I want to say end of 2000. I think for Christmas, his friend got a, program called Acid.
Okay,
Do you remember that
man.
program?
Hell yeah.
And then so we got like a pirated version of that, and so I would kind of start fucking around with that just on my family's computer. Like, it was like it's like for anyone that doesn't know, it's like a loop based program, and it comes with like packet. You can get little other packets of loops, and there's like. So it basically comes with a lot of samples. Yeah. Right, that you can loop easily. So you can kind of start combining those together to make beats. So I started doing that. My brother was doing that, just recording shitty quality raps on like the microphone that comes with the computer.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I started like putting together very, very early like song recordings and burning CDs and that type of shit. So I was kind of starting to just kind of learn a little bit of how to even like look at a track, like, okay, the vocals, when you record this, the wave looks like this, and you know what I mean? All that type of shit. So kind of from doing that, like I remember the first time I actually rapped on stage, like I said, my brother, and it was just kind of like some silly shit. Like they did like a talent show. They were seniors in high school. I was an 8th grader. And so my brother thought, it'd be cool if you just did like so we did a song at like a talent show, and like that was kind of like when I got to high school the following year. Like I said, we were kind of still on that shit, and then like probably around the age of like 15 or 16 when I kind of started writing like serious raps. Again, they weren't good, but just like, hey, let me try to make like some emotional type of shit, or still kind of making beats with acid. And you know, and so then as I started doing like every, you know, because you'd have a couple talent shows a year at your school, at my school, so like we would do so every time there was a talent show, I would do a song. You know, I was burning CDs, making like homemade little albums and like giving them to people, and or actually not even, I was trying to sell them, so I probably sold like 20 copies.
I feel you, man.
But you know, and I would like cut out liner notes and like I wasn't even going to Kinko's. I was like, I had like a little template, and then I'd cut them out, and then I'd like glue them together, and then like, and it was like super thick because it would barely even fit in like the CD tray, and like.
I was on the same shit where I would print the shit out on a printer just at home, and then I'd be cutting it out and folding it, and,
which took forever.
Oh yeah, man, and it's so much ink.
And then absolutely, and then you'd realize like, because I would try to like put all the lyrics in the booklet, and so you'd have to make them super tiny, and then I'd like find a typo. I was like, oh shit, so I'd scrap that, fix it. It was so stupid.
Yeah,
but like,
man, those are the days.
Right. So, but that was kind of my earliest shit, was just doing that. And like this whole time too, like the first time, because like I said, early on I wasn't even buying like it was all just like I had like the Marshall Mathers LP in like MP3 form, and like a lot of CDs. So like that were just like files on the computer. Like the first like physical hip hop CD, I think that my brother, for I think it was my 15th birthday. So I was a freshman in high school. He bought me Supreme Clientele, Ghostface, and the Expansion Team from Dilated Peoples. Okay. So that was kind of like my first little foray kind of into. It's a
good start.
And it's sort of like, because like Dilated Peoples, I think their video was on MTV, but they were on a major label, but they were kind of like an underground act on a major sort of.
Jurassic 5-ish.
Right.
You know?
So there was some of like, I guess underground hip hop culture was. I mean, that was back in the day too, when there were some of those acts that were on labels, and it's not like they were playing them on B96,
right?
But they were, you know, you could turn on like Rap City on BET and maybe catch their videos. So there was, even at that time, it wasn't like it was even just strictly top 40 shit that I was aware of. Like, you know, my brother kind of showed me some other stuff, because like I remember the last day of 8th grade, we went to and actually, no, you know what? I'm trying to think of this now. Because I'm trying to remember the timeline of when I like physically started buying Rhapsodies. Because I remember my last day of 8th grade, I went to the Best Buy with my brother, and I bought a copy of Slim Calhoun. He was signed to Outkast's old label. I think the album was called The Skinny. And my brother bought a copy of Enter the Wu-Tang. Okay. And one of those albums had a much bigger impact on me than the other. Because I remember my brother bought Enter the Wu-Tang. I started listening to that, and I was like blown away. Right. And I became like a Wu-Tang obsessive. Dope. And just tried to start buying like every possible like Wu-Tang affiliate CD and like solo member album. And like that was like my goal, was to try to get every single one of them, which, I mean, for anybody that knows how many Wu-Tang affiliates there are, like that I never accomplished that goal, but
so I'm gonna get into the commercial break here soon, but before we start getting into kind of how you started to get into your career and stuff of that nature, you seem to be a product of the MTV time frame, if you would. What are some of your favorite videos of all time that you can remember? You don't have to come up with 5 or 10, but just ones off the top of your head. They don't even have to be hip hop.
And honestly, thinking back to that time period, the first like hip hop video I remember seeing, like after, like I said, when I like went downstairs that day and my brother was playing some shit that he had downloaded or something. Like, I remember. Because I think around that time too, like I'd come home, my brother would be like watching like TRL, and one of the videos I remember, and I think when I saw it, I don't think I even knew what it was at first until later, but there was the Still Dre video.
Okay,
from
that's
2001. And like, I mean, if you're talking about videos that weren't even rap videos, like I said, like when I was like in 4th grade, seeing that Daft Punk video for Around the World, and this weird video with like people have like, it's like dudes wearing like I can't even really describe it, where they had like almost like they were like 8 feet tall because they had like almost like a mannequin head on top of them and doing like these weird dances and shit. Like I remember that just stuck out to me. Like what the fuck is that? Was just some weird cool shit. Yeah, because I actually remember when I was really young, like when my brother, like you'd watch. This is back in like the early '90s when like you'd watch videos and they were always just like super weird. Like back in like the alternative rock era, where like I remember my earliest memories of videos was that I thought that like music videos weren't supposed to make sense because I thought they were just supposed to be like some weird shit because that's how a lot of the videos were back then. Like they never seemed linear. You know what I mean? It was always just like a bunch of random shit happening.
Yeah, I remember like the Fugees had a couple that were like super good. TLC had the one for the Waterfalls joint that like will always stick out in my mind. MJ, I mean, he had the masterpieces. But like it's just so crazy to compare nowadays to back when they had the millions of dollars to put into the videos compared to what like
that's when, like,
passes as a
like
major
late 90s,
video
early
nowadays.
2000s, the video
like
budgets
movies.
were nuts.
Yeah,
like
dude.
if you think about like those old Bad Boy videos and like the Hype Williams videos that were like they dropped like $2 million, and I can't even imagine now like just
some of the best ones.
The economics of like the music industry now, like the idea that you could drop. I mean, your whole budget for some projects wouldn't even be $2 million. The fact that you'd spend $2 million just on a video.
Yeah.
But that's when like CDs were moving so much, like you could do that because the investment would pay off.
You could sell one for like $23 in Sam Goody or some shit.
But the same time, technology is so good now that you can kind of like make videos that are pretty high quality for nothing because anybody can just go and like, because there's so much just like recording, effects, editing programs that you can get for cheap and cameras that like, I mean, I've seen videos now like locally people making that are just as dope as videos that were made around that. Not necessarily like the jumping out of helicopters and that type of shit. Sure. But just super, nice, intricate, effects heavy videos. Like,
yeah, man. Yeah, it's
a lot you can
dope.
do now.
But yeah, yo, this is episode 25 of Organized Grind, the podcast with Oracle Uno, chilling with CMJ. First commercial break. We will be right back.
Yo. Representing the Midwest, this is Truth Maze. Yes, y'all. Check out the new EP. It's entitled The Holy Bible. You can find it on Spotify and Apple Music and elsewhere. Red Pill Music, baby. You see, with my words I can heal or kill. Talk fuck shit or truly keep it real. I can grab up a burner and flame my brother, or he and I can train so we elevate each other. I could talk about pussy all day and all night and not admit I'm toxic and don't treat women right. I could tell everybody how to pop a new pill, or tell the next generation the matrix is real. Cause what I know is I hold the power at will. Still sharp and still, goddammit, it's ill. For mentally the blade I hold, it takes skill, specially designed so I can kill Bill. And the fake shit in me I need to reveal. That's what a God does with the ability to build. My soul is my rock, my spirit's my shield. My soul is my rock, my spirit's my shield.
Yes, y'all. Organized Grind, the podcast with Oracle Uno, chilling with Christopher Michael Jensen.
What's up?
We were getting into your history. I kind of want to go in next as far as at what point were you first exposed to local hip-hop? What was it, and how far along were you in your own journey with writing rhymes and making songs that impacted you?
Yeah, well, so like I was saying, like I started getting into it really and writing, and like I was 13, that was 2000. So by like 2003, so I've been doing it for a few years. I think I was a sophomore in high school. I was 16, and I remember my friend, because like I said, I was kind of starting to get known as like the hip hop kid at school.
Sure.
People know I rap and shit. Like my friend, he asked me if I'd heard of this group called Atmosphere, and I was like, oh no, I don't know what that is. And then I think like a couple months later, we had like a class trip. I think it was like because I was in band in high school, and we were taking like a band tour. We like drove out to like the East Coast to perform. So we were gone for like a week. Anyway, so we're on like this bus, and I think my friend, he's during these long bus rides or whatever, I think he had a burned copy of Lucy Ford.
Okay.
That he's like, oh yeah, well, this is that group Atmosphere. I was saying, anybody should check it out. So like I listened to it from front to back, and like I remember just at the time when I heard it, because I didn't know anything about this group. I was just like, okay, well, and it was just really different from, and not even like I was thinking like, oh, this is awesome or oh, this is bad, or it was just like it was just kind of really different from what I was. And it wasn't even like all I was, because like I said, by no means was I like just into like top 40 shit, because like I said, I was listening to Dilated Peoples and stuff, but just I remember for whatever reason I just thought it was just different, and but it was kind of interesting to me. And I guess I just thought like, oh, this is unique, this is interesting, and then all right, cool. And then I think it was later that year my brother bought God Loves Ugly. Okay. And so we'd listen to that driving, and that's when I really started getting into Atmosphere, because I remember like hearing that, I was like, wow, this is really, and like that was the album that like I started really getting into from Atmosphere. Yeah. And so and back then too, like you'd get a CD, then you'd go home, you'd rip it on your computer, you'd have all the files. So like I was, constantly sitting at my family's computer with a big folder of MP3s that I had, like right. And so I was listening to God Loves Ugly a lot, and at that point then too, because my brother kind of was like the conduit every time, like if there was something new, like he bought like shortly after he got God Loves Ugly, I think he got I don't remember exactly what order, but he got Brother Ali's Shadows on the Sun CD. So I started getting into that. I was like, oh wow, this is really dope. And then I got into and then he bought Idea and Abilities, E&A. Yeah. So then I got into that. And so for a couple, and actually I think the following year, the first like real concert I ever went to, because also so the following year, so like we had, so like I said, we did that band tour that because there was like this time of the year at my school where like it was called interim, where like you'd have
like 2 weeks or something like that. Yeah, it was like a week. Do an activity.
Yeah, it was like a week. Yeah, and so like, but the band and the choir every other year they would do like a little tour. So like, and I was in choir also. So that the following year I went on the choir tour, and that one we went out to New York. And I remember I had read a review on rapreviews.com. That was like my site of choice for several years. Right. I was like, because a lot of times back then too, I would read like reviews of albums. I don't even know what they were a lot of times. But, and that was kind of how I discovered shit too. I was like, oh, I read this review of blah blah blah. Like we should go to Cheapo and try to find like me, because me and my brother are always trying to just find shit. Yeah. And but I read a review of or I think because they would always do like these like best of lists on Rap Reviews at the end of the year, and I remember one that was like on a lot of them was Immortal Technique's Revolutionary Volume 2. Sure. So we went out to New York for this choir tour in 2004, and I think I went to it was like a kind of like an indie store. I don't even remember what store it was, but and I remember I wanted to go to Fat Beats, but we couldn't find it, but anyway. But I went up to this store and I bought a copy of Revolutionary Volume 2. Cause I was like, this is that CD I was just... Yeah. And I remember listening to that on the way back and thinking how crazy that album was.
Some heavy shit.
So then, and I just loved that. So then when I heard that later that year, Immortal Technique was coming to town, because that's who I was like really into at that time. And like I said, I was starting to listen to Shadows on the Sun, but I was just like, I found out that Brother Ali and Immortal Technique were playing a show together at First Avenue. And like I said, I really wanted to see Immortal Technique, and I was like, oh, that'd be dope to see Brother Ali too. So me and my brother he took me to that. I was 17. That was like my first real concert kind of ever. Like there were other little things that I wouldn't really, but like this was like my first like.
That's a good first hip hop show.
And I was like, felt kind of awkward there, like. People would say, "Oh, put your hands up," and I didn't really. It just felt weird, like putting my hand. You know what I mean? Because you're just not used to like being at a concert, really.
Right.
And one random thing about that concert too, I remember walking in because there was like this group playing that I didn't know, like other than like the big kind of Minnesota hip hop artists, like I didn't know other acts, but like there was this group playing and like they stuck out to me, and it was Illuminous 3.
Oh yeah.
And this is probably when they were like 18, 19.
Right.
You know.
They used to kill it, and I mean they all still do nowadays in their own way. But like back when they were Ill 3.
Yep.
Like the Ill 3 era.
Because I just remember when I went to college a couple years later at the U of M, like I'd see Luminous 3 stickers around. And that was that group that opened for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were so fucking dope, man.
So that was like my first, and I remember I found that flyer recently because I still had it in like a little, like in my room somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think when I was doing some research, that was I think Brother Ali's first headlining show at the at First Avenue.
Okay.
And it's kind of crazy too because like a year ago, and it was on my birthday, I went to see Brother Ali was playing at First Avenue, and to like celebrate, like the first time he ever did that, he flew out Immortal Technique to play with him again. So it was kind of full circle. I was like, oh shit, like this is the first and it was on my birthday, so it was like super special.
Yeah, that's dope, man.
But
I love when shit like that happens in life.
Yeah, so like so after that concert, that was my first concert, and then I think a handful of months later, like early 2005, my brother took me to the Atmosphere.
Okay.
And so like my first two like local shows were Brother Ali and then Atmosphere.
Okay.
And like I said, I was like up on their shit a little bit. And I remember like towards the end of my senior year, my friend was trying to get me to go to this local show with this group called Doomtree.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually go to it, but that was like my first memory of Doomtree. And I don't even remember where they were playing, but they were probably still playing like, you know, it was probably a place like Triple Rock or something.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
And I also remember, like, right before I graduated from high school, my friend took me to see, it was the first time I ever went to Triple Rock, and we, like, rode the light rail, and, like I said, at that point, had still barely been to any concerts, and this was probably, like, the first show that I went to that wasn't, like, a big, like, First Ave. It was, like, you know, like a small, you know, Triple Rock was smaller, and it was Mr. Dibbs, and he played, and again, I think I knew who... I remember, I think I knew who Mr. Dibbs was because of Atmosphere, but like, Carnage opened to that. And
Okay.
I don't know who Carnage was at the time.
Yeah.
And I remember that like, so that was just another memory of like that. And also it was funny too, because it's funny how like when I was getting into all these things, there were all these like things that ended up being like these big kind of cultural things were just happening. Like MySpace had just started.
Right.
And so I got a MySpace page like right after I turned 18. And then I was like, oh, and you can put your music on it. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I started, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like I can and I remember like one of the first like friend requests I got on MySpace was from, because, you know, like I think it probably I'm sure you could probably look up Minneapolis people that do hip hop. And I remember like, and this is again, I didn't know who he was, and I don't think I even heard him till even years and years after I got the friend request, but it was from Ernest Rhodes.
Sure.
And,
man.
And I remember Carnage, I became friends with on too. And I remember hearing one of Carnage's songs on his MySpace page.
Yeah.
And this is even before I saw him. I was just like, oh, this is a local rapper. And
right.
And I remember I could tell because there was an acid sample in it because I was so used to going through the loops.
Sure.
So there were always like little things like that. I was just like, oh, that's cool. Like,
yeah.
And I use acid to make shit like,
yeah.
But yeah, so once I graduated from high school, that summer, 2005, me and my brother went to the 10-year anniversary Rhymesayers showcase at First Ave. If you remember that, where they had like everybody and like they didn't even do full sets. It was like somebody came out and did a few songs, and then another act would come out and do a few songs. You never knew how it was gonna be. Like it was just kind of like a mishmash all night.
Yeah.
MF Doom made like a surprise appearance. Like, and that was like at that point that was like one of the dopest concerts I ever seen. I was like, wow, that was crazy.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, at that point, once I got to college too, like, I mean, I was pretty, cause like around 2004 too, I was like when I was starting to get into like a lot of underground shit. Like me and my brother would go to Cheapo all the time. I would read rapreviews.com and see so I started getting to like Jedi Mind Tricks. I started getting nonfiction, MF Doom.
Sure.
Lewis Logic, you know, and then of course a lot of the local shit. And so at that point I was like, you know, prior in high school, like I said, I was doing like talent shows. I was making kind of, you know, bullshit homemade CDs. And like, for me, I really wanted to start kind of like doing shows and stuff, but I had to focus on, you know, going to work. Cause like at that point, okay, now I had a job, I had to go to, and I was at the U of M, so I had to kind of focus on that shit. So like, I really wanted to start doing shit, but I was just kind of like,
Sure.
So I kept writing and stuff, and like, you know, and like, but it wasn't really till I was done with college when I could be like, okay, now I can just try to like figure out what the fuck, how you get on shows and how you.
Okay.
So that was, yeah.
What was the first show then that you got to do?
So a couple months before I graduated, I made like a mixtape where I actually felt over like industry beats where I kind of felt like, okay, this is actually decent. And it was like recording quality because I bought like a mic, basically like what we're talking in right now. I bought like a, you know, the Wins. So, and I didn't know how to set up the amp quite right. So it was still not the best quality, but like,
Sure.
I kind of was like, all right, now I have this, now I can figure out. And so I put that out a couple months before I graduated. Once I graduated, I was like, all right, now I should start working on an album and figuring out what. So I remember I sent an email to the U of M because I knew that they were taking like submissions for the whole.
Oh yeah.
And so because back then, like I said, I didn't know how you got booked. I didn't know how you set up shows. I thought like, oh, does it cost money to set up shows? Like, do you have to pay the? Like, I didn't know what was what.
Yeah.
And you know, because I remember I used to post like little blogs on MySpace where like, oh, I got some new music, and if anyone's trying to book, and it's like, no one's probably checking my little blog on my.
Sure,
you know what I'm saying? I just had
right.
no idea. So I sent an email to the whole like, oh yeah, well I'm an alumni now, and because they kind of take preference to people that go to the school, or since I was an alumni, probably recent graduates or whatever, and so I sent that out. You know, I don't think I even heard anything for a couple months, and then I think it was like January 2010. I got an email.
Oh,
where
wow.
They asked if I wanted to open for Big Quarters.
Okay.
And I think I had seen Big Quarters like once in college, so I kind of knew who they were.
Yeah.
So it was Big Quarters in this group called Duende. Who at the
That's
time,
right.
Right, and
yeah.
so, and knowing now what I know about Duende and their relationship with Big Zach, I think Big Zach had just met them like a month or two earlier.
Sure.
I think he started managing them. So he was like at that show too, and like
Dope.
So that was like my first like real show, not like a talent show, not like
right.
It was like, okay, this is like a
you're at the
concert.
venue.
There's a flyer for it, all that shit. So
Dope.
I did that, and then and also a few months prior to that, a friend of mine, because I worked at Best Buy, and a friend of mine, because he knew I rapped, and he's like, oh yeah, do you know this dude named Nobody?
Okay.
Because he was friends with
Shout out Nobody.
rapper promoter Nobody. And so he kind of plugged me with him.
Yeah.
I went and met him at so like when I met him at like a Mac Lethal show, he was doing it like, I think it was at the Loft. So so I did my show at the Hole. I was kind of finishing my album. Probably made the album way too early. I probably should have done more shows first. I was like, oh, well, now I have an album, so I'll do shows and I'll sell the album at the shows. Like, but it was like, so I was trying to set up like a release show for the album after the show at the Hole, and it was like, I don't really know. I didn't know like, oh, you need to hit up venues like 3 months out. Like so you're just trying to cold hit up, you know, and no one's really getting back. Finally, I got accepted at Big V's.
Yeah, man. Shout out
close.
Big V's. Hell yeah.
Because I was trying to hit up venues that I knew, and I had just gone to Big V's, I think a couple months before this, to see Lewis Logic.
Man, I've seen the most classic shows at that joint where there's only 5 people there, and it's like one of the most incredible shows.
What was funny about that
down.
show too is I went and saw Lewis Logic there.
I love that place.
And this group that I didn't know who they were at the time, because like I said, at this time I didn't really know a lot of the acts in town, and it was Go Ahead and Die, who then became Moody Black, and then and then they were on the same label as Lewis Logic later, which was kind of like a weird brand. So like, but yeah, so Big V's took me, and I put together like a lineup of like all the people that were on the album so like some of the people that I knew in high school that, you know, kind of rapped a little bit.
Sure.
Were on, and then like Nobody, he'd rap. So we did like this lineup. You know, I probably went on like 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, man.
Not knowing, I should probably go early, and so like.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, the show was what it was. It had a decent turnout, and then at that point, it was kind of like, all right, well, now let me kind of figure out. Now that I've done a couple things, like, and I remember some of my early shows, like, because Nobody was putting together a lot of shows, like, because I remember I met, like, Nemo the Hooligan around that time.
Yeah, man.
Because he was, like, DJing for Nobody at the time, and, like, you know, I started meeting, like, Moonlight Grammar and just different acts around. And so at that point, it was kind of like, let me just try to do as much as I can in the scene. And just, because, like, at that point, like I said, I was done with college. I knew, okay, it's like, I want to be a hip-hop artist. So, like, nothing's going to stop me now. Like, there's no more distractions. Like, now it's crunch time.
Yeah.
So it was like, all right, I made an album. Let me just start meeting people, networking, trying to set up shows, trying to get on shows, like do everything I can. And so I kind of started, 2010. You did some shows here and there, and then I think by 2011 I kind of knew enough where I was like, okay, well, my goal was going to be, let me try to do a show every single month, like at least one show every month, just to kind of like, and also let me try to see if like every time I set up my own show, I can try to do it like at a different venue to kind of like build relationships with different venues.
Sure.
So like, I did a show at like Station 4. I did a show at like the Red Sea. I did a show at like the Blue Nile, Big V's again. Like this place called the Maple Tavern out in Maple Grove. Just different spots. And it was, hit or miss attendances and just trying to figure out what the fuck you're doing and, not really, making a lot of money and a lot of times losing money and just, because that was the thing too, was I was doing these shows and it was like, I loved like, okay, I'm building the but it was just like, it was getting like to be deflating when you do a show and like, all right, well, this act wants $100 and so I was like, all right, I'll pay them and then I'm gonna like make posters and hang but like you're not, and then you're playing for like 5 people and it was just like, what
am I doing?
It just felt like, because like I said, for so long, like the first like I said, I started rapping in 2000, like the first 10 years of my like rap career, I mean, if you want to call it a career, but just me making hip hop was like, learning how to rap, making beats at my house, like just kind of like figuring out how to rap, what to do, but also just like learning about hip hop and taking it in and like, and so like by the time I started like doing shows, I felt like at least seasoned enough where, because like a lot of times I'll meet kids now where they like they've been rapping for 6 months and they're trying to do shows. And my shit was totally different. It was like, I was doing little talent shows, but I wasn't trying to like book at venues until I was 23 when I started really doing shows. So at that point, like I said, like I was done with college. I had done about, a handful of shows in 2010, 2011. The first half of the year was like, okay, well, I mean, I'm keeping to my goal of doing at least a show a month, but like it's not going the best. But I was like starting to slowly meet people, going to events, but like, and also at that time too, like I knew people in the scene that were kind of like acquaintances, but they weren't like, I wasn't like friends. I mean, I was like you'd see people at shows, oh yeah, man, we did that, but I wasn't like kicking it with people. You know what I mean? And I remember at the time I was like talking to one of my friends outside of the music scene where I was like, yeah, it'd be like a dream of mine, like if I could just, like once I get to the point where I actually have like friends in the music scene and like friends that are like, because that's the thing too, is like when you're trying to be like an artist and you're trying to do shows, but like my friends who are not into hip hop really, or like, people in my work, like it was almost like getting like pulling teeth to get them to come out to shows. Like they would maybe come out to a show, but it was like, and it just didn't really feel like people cared really. You know what I mean? Because like when you start out, the people that come to your shit are like friends, coworkers, family type. You know what I mean?
Right.
For a lot of people, it's like, so, and sometimes the kids that are coming out of high school where they got like 40 people from their high school. Like, but like I was 24, so it was like, it wasn't like I was riding this wave of like all my youthful friends with no respect. It was like, you know what I'm saying? So So, but I remember the turning point was, like I said, my goal at that point was trying to reach out to the venues, and I had played one show at Honey in 2010 that like I said, nobody set me up or set up that put me on, but that was the only time I had ever played at Honey. And I remember when I was setting up shows in 2011, I hit them up. I was like, oh yeah, so I just kind of pitched to them what I wanted to do, and I think the acts that played on this show, this would have been July 2011, and like, cause I got like Duende on it, cause I knew them from, like this couple of guys, like this guy from my work that rapped, and just, a handful of artists from around the scene. So we put the show together, and again, I didn't know what to expect from it. Like, I had done an album release the year before, but I kind of realized like, okay, well, a lot of people don't really know me, because I had like a mixtape that I had made, but I was like, do I need to do a quote unquote release show for this? Because it's like, who am I? So like, it was kind of like an unofficial release show. Like I didn't bill it as a release show, but I had copies of it. I gave away copies at the door. And I didn't even know what to expect going into the show. I don't think we even billed it as like any kind of theme. It was just, I'm sure if I found the event page on Facebook, we probably called it something, but it was just we did this show at Honey, and like I said, July 2011, and I remember this was like what made me like excited again, like about like, oh, this could actually pick up again, was like, I think we had like 150 people at the show. And it was like everybody on the show really cared about promoting the show.
Sure.
Which is kind of how all shows should be that way. But like at that time, it was like everybody on it was just like stoked to be on the show and doing the show. So like it just clicked, and it was like, this was back in the days when Honey, you know, you'd be there till like 3 a.m,
right?
Because like it was just like so under the radar that like I remember, because we were gonna do like a big cipher at the end, and like I think Duende, they were doing a set with this band called the Electric Children.
Okay.
And so like at 1:57 they were done. They're like, well, I guess we could start the cipher now, and they let us do the cipher till like 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then we just hung out, and then by 3, after we were just hanging out at the venue, and they were kind of, all right, well, now you guys do need to kind of go now. But like that's how crazy the show was, because like they just let us do shit because there were so many people there, and because that show went so well, then Honey was like stoked to do another show, and like and then the following month after July, a friend of mine, I should also throw this in there too, that like part of the way I started to meet people in the scene too was that Fifth Element open mic was a huge part of it.
Sure.
Because when I was trying to like even meet people or just get in front of people, really, when I like 2010, when I was only doing like a handful of shows that year, every month I was trying to go to the open mic. So I was like getting in front of people. And I was kind of meeting some people at that. So that kind of kept me going to like, oh, it'll be dope. Like next month I'll do this song and I'll try to impress people that way. And so this guy that I knew from the open mic, he was putting together, it was his first show ever, like I said, the lineup was all people he met from the open mic, because he probably didn't know a lot of people either, and that was Acronym.
Okay, shout out Acronym. He's coming through this week too.
Oh, word, dope.
Yeah.
So he put together this show at Honey in August 2011, and like a couple weeks before this, you know, because this was kind of when I so slowly starting to meet people. We're kind of like meeting up to talk about things, but we weren't really like kicking it. It was just kind of like slowly getting to that point, and we had this thing. We started going to our friend's house every Sunday to do like freestyle ciphers.
Okay.
And because Acronym kind of told me about it, because I had met at this point, I met Mammoth, you know him, because he used to come to the open mic a lot, and he would just be like, he would just freestyle, and I was like, because at that point too, I wasn't even really like a freestyle, like I just wrote raps, and I didn't really even understand how to like I would see. I remember I went to Rock the Bells in like 2007 or something, back when Rock the Bells used to tour, and I remember Supernatural hosted it, and I remember he would just see things in the crowd, and I was like, how the fuck do you like? I didn't even understand how you could do that. Like, it was just like that was like the most crazy thing, and then I'd see people like Mammoth at the open mic just rapping, just nonstop.
Yeah.
Just not even understanding how you can just stream a conscious rap like that. So we started doing these ciphers, and I'm around people like, I think because Mammoth came to some of these things at like these Sunday night ciphers that we would do. Yeah. And we play like little freestyle games and
dope. That's important, man. I mean, I truly feel like everybody who wants to get into rapping needs to develop the freestyle and the like freestyle game section of your toolbox as an MC.
Because I knew a lot of people at that point like that they got into rap by freestyling first and then learning how to actually write songs, and I was the exact opposite. I used to, and again, a lot of times the songs when I was younger weren't good, but I was like trying to write conceptual songs and all this whatever. So being around a lot of these people now at these like little get-togethers we would do, I was like starting to kind of like get out of my comfort zone of like, what do I say when I try to you know what I mean? Yeah. And just not really, I was overthinking it. Right. So when I was getting around people like that, that kind of loosened me up more. And there was this girl, it was her house. She was talking about how she wanted to start putting together these like compilations of people she knew in the scene, and she was going to call it Rap Fam. Okay. And this is back when like, you know, people would, this is back when like Bandcamp was starting to be like the thing too, and so like we'd put the compilations on Bandcamp. and we'd burn them and bring them to shows and give them out to people. And so like the first show that she did this at, it was this show that Acronym put on, and that show went really well. And I think it was at that show is where I met Andre Mariette for the first time.
Okay.
Because I think, and I was listening to your podcast with Andre, I think him and Acronym had probably met like a few months before that.
Okay, dope.
So there was a lot of people like in the scene at that time that like that are in the scene a lot now that I was like, we're just kind of starting to like meet people. Mm-hmm. And so after that, it was like overnight, kind of like once this whole kind of little circle of people, which again we kind of sort of called Rap Fam.
Yeah.
It was like overnight, all of a sudden I had like 40 friends and we were like hanging out all the time. Like we started going to Acronym's house because he had kind of like a little studio set up, and we would go to like this girl's house and do these little like freestyle cypher things, and so that was like a switch, because all of a sudden it was like, all right, well, we have some shows where people actually want to go to, and now I know all these rappers and people are actually like kind of into this. And like a lot of those people too that I started hanging out with, I think part of what helped it too was that they were like 4 or 5 years younger than me. So they kind of were a lot of them like that age where they had a bunch of friends that were just like, oh, let's all go to the shows. And like, so that kind of reinvigorated me too, because like I was super hungry, but like a lot of people that were my age were kind of like just going to dive bars to drink every week, and they weren't into this. Like, so when I was around a bunch of like young hip hop kids, it was like, that was like exciting, because it was like, all right, they're like on my passionate level,
right?
You know what I'm saying? So
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, so once we started doing that, and then I started meeting people, and like you'd meet people, and it was like, because we had kind of these like hip hop houses, it was very easy to like just meet somebody like, oh yeah, you should come just kick it with us at like, we called it the Rap House.
Yeah.
And Acronym's house, well, I think we just called it Acronym's house, but but it was like those two houses were like the spots. And that also kind of helped me too, because a lot of those people, you know, they knew other people in the scene, so then like I would kind of, it was like easy to just meet people. Because I remember even like the year prior, I think I probably did get like a text once in a while from people like Nemo the Hooligan, like, oh yeah, we're having a get together, but like it was still kind of like intimidating almost, like where I didn't really know these people, like they would have like a group of friends that I kind of knew in passing sort of, but it was still somewhat intimidating for me to just like go to those parties and feel like,
it's almost like you had to like prove yourself again.
Yeah,
as an MC.
Because some of those people I was meeting, like they were kind of already doing stuff in the scene, and like I had been rapping as long as a lot of them, sometimes even longer, but like I wasn't in the scene those first 10 years. I was just like, you know what I mean? Because I like the shows that I was going to were like Atmosphere at First Avenue, but like it wasn't like I was going to like the, like, you know, I mean, because I always hear stories about like, you know, the whole community of people going to the Dinky Towner.
Yeah, the Dinky Towner.
Like I went to the Dinky Towner a couple times when I was younger, but like I kind of missed that wave. Like I said, a lot of the shows that I was going to in 2000 to 2009 were like the kind of like the big hip hop shows, not like a 40 person or
right.
You know what I mean? Like so like Honey was kind of our Dinky Towner.
Yep,
you know
for
what I mean?
sure. That was definitely like the second wave.
Because that was the venue that like of all I've played at Honey more than any venue in town. I played at Honey literally like, because I save all my sets on my computer too, and like they're all like dated.
Oh, sure.
And when I look at that, it's like there's literally like 80 shows I played on. I mean, so and so around that time, like the fall of 2011, like I was just meeting so many new people, and like it was building up this confidence, and like you know, around that time, I think it was September, October 2011 is when I met, you know, this kid named Dem Atlas.
Sure.
And he had like, you know, a couple songs at that time. Like, you know, no one knew who he was yet. I mean, so that's what I'm saying. Like, we were meeting people that like now are doing all this shit. That,
right.
Like, at the time, it was just all these young kids that just were trying to get out there.
Developing.
Yeah. So like, and that whole kind of wave of us just like, because like once you're just around a bunch of people that rap and like are trying to set up shows, like it's like a domino effect where like you're hanging out with somebody, oh, I'm putting together a show, like, oh yeah, we should get you on this, and then, oh yeah, well, I'm doing a show in a couple months, and so like it was just like boom, 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 like it was just everybody was doing shit all the time.
Yeah.
And if you weren't rapping at somebody's show, you were probably going and you'd probably jump on stage and do a song, or we used to do freestyle ciphers at every show.
Yeah.
Like that was just like the thing. At Honey, there was always like a middle of the show, let's do a freestyle cipher, or like the end of the show, like, which is certainly not the case at every show now. But back then, that was still kind of like that that was still very like an in thing where like the freestyle tradition was still a very like prominent thing at shows,
right?
Which unfortunately is not as much the case now. Like I still try to do that when we can at shows, but like and this is back too when we used to do shows like when we would do ciphers, they were like masturbatory. It'd be like 45-minute ciphers sometimes. Right. Where at a certain point, the crowd's kind of, all right, well, you guys are just kind of rapping to yourselves
just
now.
going.
But we just loved doing that shit so much, and it was just like, I don't know, that was just such a crazy time because like it was just, and everybody, like I said, I was hanging around with, they just had that was all we did. We just went to shows all the time. Like this was before... You know, a lot of people I know now, like they're married or they have kids or they have like a full-time job now. Like, and back then I remember a lot of people I was kicking it with, like they did not have any responsibilities really.
Sure.
It was just, let's get up, let's just jam. Like we used to have parties at Acrodym's house where in one room somebody would be just fucking around on a turntable while someone's playing the drums, while someone's fucking around with the keyboard, playing a beat off a computer. The other room people are just freestyling, and it's just like, it was just like chaos of just kids hanging out, rapping and just...
sorry to cut
I'm
you off.
rambling. I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. It's great shit because it, you know, those are definitely the most important moments as far as having a music career. Are those kind of those jam sessions that are happening in the moment that feel great, but that you're not realizing like there may be a point where like all you want is to relive this for another minute.
Right.
You know, like it's just beautiful. But I'm gonna get into the second commercial break. We're already at an hour. There's a couple of things I wanted to touch on though.
Absolutely.
It seems like Dem Atlas and you guys had a pretty tight knit collective of people.
Right.
When he got signed to Rhymesayers, was that kind of known within the collective, or how did his group of friends kind of take the news?
Well, I remember, because like I said, when we were doing all that shit, like it was just for about a year, from like I said, this was like fall of 2011 to, I mean, we probably kind of kept this sort of frantic energy up for a couple years. I think because I actually remember.
Like, was that a surprise when it happened to you guys?
Well, it's interesting because I was, and if I remember the timeline correctly, like a bunch of us, we went to Hard Times Cafe one night, and I remember we ran into Kevin Beecham.
Okay.
And we were just kind of talking to Kevin, and at the end, before we were about to leave, because at the time Kevin had a show on The Current called
Essential.
No, it was I'm drawing a blank out right now.
Sure.
But he had a show on The Current late night. I think it was a Saturday nights where he'd play. He played kind of underground hip hop, local hip hop.
Yeah.
And so I think before we left, I was like, hey, like, by the way, like, what's the process just to submit music for your show?
Yeah.
So he gave us like his email. I sent him a song. Dem Atlas sent him a song. Because Dem Atlas was with us at the Hard Times, and he, like a couple weeks later, because at the time Dem Atlas had like an EP, just the Charlie Brown EP, it was like on Bandcamp. That's all he had out.
Right. Yeah.
And so he sent him the song Charlie Brown. Off of that, I sent him a song I had called Tie Dye Sky. A couple weeks later, Kevin played Charlie Brown, and we were like, oh wow, you got played on The Current. And then a couple weeks later, I got played. I was like, oh, that's dope. And then I think from that, Kevin kind of started like looking at his shit, and he got him on, because they used to throw shows at the, I think it was with like McNally or MPR. They used to do like these shows, or I don't remember exactly the details of it, but I think he booked a show, like I think Greaves was the headliner.
Okay.
This was a Triple Rock, and I don't remember who the other opener was, but I think Dem Atlas was one of the other openers he got on it, because he was just kind of getting into it. And then from what I understand the history of was that Sadiq was at the show and saw it. I actually wasn't even at the show, but I remember hearing about it. And liked it. Yeah. And I remember, it's actually funny too, because I remember I was at our friend's house, the person that I met Dem Atlas through a friend of ours named Irenic, who used to rap.
That's right.
She's still around now. She doesn't go by that name anymore, but because they had a song together called Angels Lose Their Way, which was on one of the Rap Fam CDs. But anyway,
Dope.
And we were at her house. I think we were like making cookies or something, and he got an email while we were there.
Yeah.
He looked at the email on his laptop, and he was like, "Who's Sadiq?" And I'm like, "That's the CEO of Rhymesayers, man." Like, he's like, "Oh, I should probably hit it back then." And like, and we didn't know what it was like, because I remember at the time I just thought, oh, maybe they want to like do some work, but we didn't necessarily think it was like, oh, he's gonna get signed.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was just like, because at the time I remember thinking too, like, because Fifth Element, they used to do like things every Thursday. Like one of them was the open mic. They used to do trivia. And I remember one time they did like a Q&A. They used to do like, it was called like the Mixer or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I remember Sadiq did a Q&A, and he was talking about how like, because of just the way the climate is now with music, that, you know, you can't, it's really hard to just sign an artist and develop them in, like, you almost have to be somewhat established to be signed. And I remember him saying that, and so I'm thinking, just because I remember him saying that like, well, I think one of the quotes he said was like, if you've sold 5,000 CDs, I can maybe help you sell 20,000. But if you haven't even sold that, like, so I'm thinking it's okay, well, Dem's dope, he's got a prep, but like he hasn't sold 5,000 albums.
Right.
So I'm thinking like, in my mind, like, yeah, they probably want to do some shit with him. Maybe they want to maybe have him come on like the Welcome to Minnesota tour or something like that. I don't know, but like it didn't immediately click in my head like they're gonna sign him to Rhymesayers, because I just thought like they would be literally starting from scratch, because he was doing like some cool local shit, but he wasn't like an established act by that point. It wasn't like he was a prof, or you know what I mean, who had already done a lot of shit.
Yeah, I almost feel like too that worked in his direction, because it's almost like, all right, here's a fresh talent that hasn't been kind of poisoned by the well of the bitterness of the politics of the homies of the just accidentally being friends with someone that you would have no idea that, oh shit, I didn't realize just because I'm friends with this guy now that means I can't be friends with this guy.
Well, that was the thing, is because I remember I was just wondering like what they hit him up about. And I remember a couple months later I was at because when I was talking about that house we had, it was called the Rap House. The girl that lived there, she moved to another place, and then we kind of called it the Rap House 2.0. And Dem Atlas lived there. Okay. With some of our friends, and so I was over there one day, and I remember asking him, like, "Oh, hey, so what was up? Why did you ever figure out like why did Sadiq hit you up? Like, what did they want?" Yeah. He's like, "Oh, they want to sign me to Rhymesayers," and I was like, "Oh, wow!" Like, and again, it wasn't like, "Oh, what? That should be me." Like, it was that's dope. Like,
yeah. But I mean, like, whenever you have a group of friends and you're all, especially within hip hop, because it is a competitive kind of sport when you get down to it, you can love it, but when, you know, I just was imagining, I was like, I wonder how the group of friends is kind of taking the news.
I know we were all stoked.
Yeah. Exactly. You know, but at the same time, someone outside of the camp is probably wondering like, I wonder how that's playing out. Because he was involved with so many local projects. And then once he got signed, it was like, all right, now it's kind of time to focus on my career.
Well, and honestly, too, like, I just remember thinking, like, and this was kind of one of those moments, too, where I was just like, wow, like, of all the rappers in Minnesota, like, somebody kind of from our circle of friends got signed to Rhymes. And so, like, dope. Even if it wasn't, like, me, it was, like, somebody from our kind of collective of people, like, that's crazy. Like, you know, and that was amazing to me. Like, I was so happy that, you know what I mean? And, like, I remember the following year, like, because eventually, I mean, and they didn't even announce it that he was getting signed until like a few months later, after I knew that he was like, the following year, this would have been like 2014, he went on the Welcome to Minnesota. I think it was actually the last Welcome to Minnesota tour.
Okay, yeah.
And I remember what was so cool about that was like, so he was on the road with them. My friend Ashley, she was kind of been doing some stuff with Fix, like helping run their merch, and like No Bird Sing was on the tour also. So she was going on the tour too, helping run merch. And then another one of my friends, like who beatboxed, his name is Bloomer, who actually, and this is another kind of crazy story. He last year won the national beatbox championship. Oh shit! Also from our just little circle of
shout out Bloomer,
right? Which is just crazy. And then somebody that was just, and he goes to that level. Yeah. So he went on the tour to kind of beatbox a little bit during Dem's set. Another one of our friends, Lydia Liza. She was doing some stuff with Toki Wright at the time, and he was on the tour. So it's like a bunch of my friends all of a sudden were just on this tour with Atmosphere.
Damn.
And it was just like, and I'm seeing them like posting up pictures on Facebook with Slug, and it's just like, wow, my friends are awesome. Like, you know what I mean? Like the fact that all my friends are like, I mean, not all my friends, but like a bunch of my friends are on this tour with like the biggest hip hop act ever out of Minnesota. Like it just made me
look that you could probably get if you're in the state right now.
Yeah, it just made me feel proud that it's like, wow, like all the work we like, it was so cool to see that. And like, you know, it's like you were saying, I mean, there probably would be some people out there that would be like on some jealousy shit, but like to me it was just like, that's dope. And like, you know, people, I mean, I think I've heard a bunch of people say this, and I say all the time, it's like whatever in Minnesota, it's like if someone's getting put on, that makes us all that's only good for all of us, because it's like, you know, there's so many dope artists in the scene that it's like if someone's, the doors being open for them, like that's just gonna create a wave of like doors being opened. And you know, I think that's kind of like, you know, as the years have gone on now, and like I've booked more and more shows, and kind of like, I mean, that's something too, like out of necessity. When I started getting into the scene, I wasn't expecting somebody to like put me on. Right. So it was like, I got to figure out how to do as much of this shit myself. Yep. And once I kind of started figuring out how to do that, now it's like, over the years, that's become something I've like been just as passionate about as just strictly making the music. Is like I've become like a curator of events, and so now it's like I try to help out younger artists coming up, because I know how intimidating it can be. Like I was saying before, like to get in, like you don't really know anybody, and like people kind of ask me advice about how to put together things. I try to like kind of tell them, you know, how to time a show out, and how like, okay, well, if you open the doors at this time, you gotta how to do promo, and like that's the kind of shit now that, you know, as I become like an older artist in the scene now, like I try to cultivate that as much as I can, because I know how hard it can be to come up.
For sure.
And yeah.
With that said, hey, let's go into the second commercial break. This is Organized Grind, the podcast with Oracle Uno, chilling with CMJ. We'll go into a final segment, and then we'll wrap it up. So we'll be right back. Hey, what's up, world? This is Oracle Uno checking in to let you know that I just released a brand new EP entitled Speech Therapy. It's entirely self-produced, and you can now get it at oracleuno.com. That's ORIKALUNO.com. Thank you for listening. It's all unraveling, I feel it in my abdomen. About to take a swim in a bottle from the cabinet. Full throttle, hollowing the content of the glass I sip. Too much pain, yeah, the shit ain't even masking it. Okay, got a few loose things I need to tighten up. Do it in the dark before the sky tries to brighten up. Maneuver in the shadows, that's all I'm really used to. Most people always try to find a way to use it. Feeling for a drive, I'm in need to feel alive. 95 miles per hour on a 94 ride. Pissing off passerbyers that I force to coincide with me. Middle finger up to the punk on the side of me. Rough around the edges, disrespecting the guest list. Use all my drink tickets and forget the set list. I've seen it all before, and you ain't impressive. I ain't shit either, yeah, I've learned that lesson. Had it go in the wind. Got my windows open, I ain't holding it in. I try to take it slow, but the motion's intense. It happened too fast, can't get over the bends. Let it go, let it go, let it go in the wind. Got my windows open, I ain't holding it in. I try to take it slow, but the motion's intense. It happened too fast, can't get over the bends. Let it go, let it go. My vision hazy, yeah, I know I'm living crazy though. Yes, y'all. Organized Grind, the podcast with Oracle Uno, episode 25, back from a 2-week hiatus. We're kicking it with CMJ.
What up?
So we had ended the last segment talking about Dem Atlas, so shout out to Dem Atlas. I'm super proud of him too. And, you know, I had seen, he signed with Rhymesayers, like, it's already been a long time ago.
Yeah, 6 years almost.
Like, holy shit, right? Like, I remember...
This decade's been flying by.
Yo, what the fuck, right?
I know.
But shout out to him. As far as your shows and your career, let's kind of fast forward to nowadays.
Yeah.
What are some of the highlights of your career so far when it comes to hip-hop?
Man. Well, it's funny, I said it's flying by, but I almost feel like I've lived a lifetime this decade. Like, truthfully, like, once I got into the scene, like it's amazing how many, like hip hop and local hip hop has given me like experiences that like I never would have had otherwise. Like I honestly like just getting to like even tour around the country, and I'm not like an extensive I don't know, a tourist. I
Where
guess.
are some of the places that you've gotten to play?
I've played, well, I mean, like last year I got to play in Las Vegas,
Oh.
which was dope. I've played in like San Jose and San Francisco. I've played in Denver. I've played in Fargo, Iowa City. I think I've played in 9 different states. But like I've only actually been on a few tours, like, but just the fact that I've gotten to like travel around the country because of music and see places that I probably wouldn't have seen.
Yeah.
You know, like, because I don't really travel that much, so like when I do travel, I feel like there's gotta be like a reason, and like if the reason's music, like that motivates me. Oh, okay, I can go out to California for music and then maybe check out some other shit while I'm there. Like, and I'm hoping to do more of that, but like just being able to tour, you know, and just tell people that you've literally traveled around the country rapping is fucking dope.
Sure.
You know, getting to open for artists that I looked up to when I was younger.
Like who?
A couple years ago, I got to open for Raekwon.
Dope.
And like I was telling you, like when I was 14, became like a Wu-Tang obsessive. Like
Fuck
Wu-Tang's
yeah.
like my favorite group of all time. Like to open for Raekwon was fucking crazy. Mm-hmm. I got to open for Slick Rick. I remember buying Slick Rick's first album when I was like 15.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I mean, just crazy shit. Like I got to open for Alright the Rugged Man.
Dope.
Like I was telling you about, I was the Demigods I was super into. I got to open for Apathy and Self-Titled last year. I got to open for Gift of Gab from Black Alicious.
Yeah.
POS. DJ Abilities.
Wow. So you have
Yeah, no, it's
quite the resume.
Yeah, it was, and I'm just so grateful, man, because like I said, like to get to do that kind of shit, like I never like take for granted, you know, like that's not stuff that you just, oh, you start rapping and you get to open for Raekwon. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
when
yeah.
I got that opportunity, I was like, holy shit. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of stuff that like a lot of people can't say, and the fact that I can say it is like I am so fucking proud of that. Like,
Sure. We're gonna talk about your new project after the Lightning Gauntlet, so I'm gonna save that. But what kind of advice? Well, actually, let's start with what's left in your career as far as what's the next thing that you're trying to chase, or what's the next thing that will make you feel like you've obtained the next level, because you're pretty leveled up as far as the prestige of your career. What's that next level for CMJ?
And one of the things too, and I would say kind of going off of what you were saying about things that have been highlights, like one of the things that music's allowed me to do too is like things that I've been passionate about, like, you know, social causes and stuff. Like for a long time, I've been able to help facilitate, like, you know, throwing like benefit shows for different things like suicide prevention and like Planned Parenthood and you know, like domestic abuse awareness and just like a bunch of different causes that like I've gotten so much out of the scene from doing those things that like that's something that I definitely try to keep pushing and making like a bigger part of what me and the kind of the people around me do. And like doing those kinds of things, you know, I feel like there's a lot of people when they get into the scene, they you know, it's like, okay, well, I got to make a bunch of money and that's the end goal. I mean, it's like, you know, over time I've found ways to kind of get savvier with business things here and there. And it's like kind of figure out ways to not lose as much money being an artist. And like, so that is a goal to try to level up more in terms of just business. But like, there's so many just things, rewards that I've gotten out of music that I feel like that's something that I want to try to keep pushing to the forefront is how can we do things like in the community that touch people.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Because like I know people like going to shows where people are crying in the crowd because of what the music or the cause or what we're doing means to them, and like that means more than making $50 at a show. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So things like that, like you know, I was talking about how I came up doing things at the Fifth Element open mic, like the fact that I've gotten to start doing that now, and I'm trying to kind of grow that there at the store. I got to be the host of that now. And so trying to to kind of like find ways to kind of like keep doing that kind of stuff where we can kind of like reach more artists, help kind of like facilitate, like cultivate like younger artists coming up.
Sure. So since we're here, why don't we start talking about that? When did you first start to host the open mic at the Fifth Element?
Well,
and how did you get that?
Well, so like the first time I ever went to the open mic was December 2009. And I know that's kind of been like an on again, off again thing since I think 2002.
Sure.
And
at
at the time, I don't think I didn't even know that. I think I just heard that they were starting it. And so I think, because it's kind of been on again, off again, I think they were kind of in like a period where they weren't doing it and they brought it back.
For sure.
And so when I went to the second one they did, there was a handful of people. And then I started going to that a lot. And so over the years, I've kept going to that when they've been doing it. And then eventually, like, I kind of started, getting to know, like, the people that work at Fifth Element and Rhymesayers, on a more, like, personal level, like, not talking about, like, Slug and like, but, like, talking about the people that work in the store, handle like a lot of the social media. And those are the people that, as I got to know them more, I had some friends that were kind of, like, involved at the store as interns and who were kind of helping host it. And, like, at a certain point, when they stepped down, and I heard that, I was kind of talking to them because I had done like a couple like guest co-hosting things with them because they were kind of doing a little bit of that, and like I kind of really wanted to just start. Like if they needed somebody to like run it, I was more than willing. And so last summer, when like I said, my friends were stepping down, shout out to Sophomore Corn, and they weren't sure if they were going to do it anymore, and I was like, well, no, we should definitely try to keep this going. Like, if you need somebody to host it, I would full time. I would love to do that,
and
they were like more than happy to. And so I've been trying to like
that's
promo.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, I've been trying to like promo the fuck out of it, help build it, like, and the crowds have been good, and we've been trying to do like, I try to like have sometimes get like a Carnage will guest co-host with me sometimes, and we'll do like little competitions, like all right, our favorite act, you can play at one of Carnage's next shows, or like. Last month we did a Soundset ticket giveaway. Sure. And I had student one who I was talking about who played Soundset. Like he guest co-hosted with me, and I remember meeting him at the open mic when he was so it's cool to like. That's one of those things again where it's like a full circle. Like when I was getting into the scene, rapping at that. Now the fact that I get to run it, and it's dude. Now that I'm in that position, how can I do more with that? Knowing what I know after all these years, and how can we do more with the younger artists. And people, I hear all the time, like, I remember seeing like a comment one time on a post about the Fifth Element open mic. Someone was like, oh, open mic at Fifth Element, they show real love there. Which was kind of one of those moments where I was like, I get the sense of some of these dudes that come to that, like some of the events, I don't know if they're like maybe used to doing like those like bullshit pay to play shows. Right. Where I get the sense that like there are people in the scene that, they're not necessarily part of the same kind of like community or scene that maybe
different
like you
segment.
And me are, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right, where like they're maybe used to like I get the sense a lot of times that there's kids in the scene or people coming up that don't really know like this is bullshit and this isn't. So,
right, yep.
And like we're kind of from that, sort of ethos of like, it's about like the culture of hip hop, and it's about, like just paying your dues and that sort of shit, and really the reward is in just what hip hop's done for you. And I feel like there are people out there that are trying to take advantage of kids that don't know any better, and they're not about that type of shit. So it's like the fact that I can kind of like get people on that same vibe that, like I said, you and me are accustomed to, where like let's help people out and grow and do what we can for like the hip hop scene and the community, like
as a whole.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So why don't you plug it? When does the open mic at the Fifth go down?
It's every single month, every first Wednesday.
Okay.
And like we do, it's free, all ages. Okay. Anybody can come sign up.
What time?
Day of. We start the sign-ups at 5. Sometimes people will even show up before 5 just to get ready to sign up. So I would definitely encourage people to get there early.
Okay.
And we do performances from 6 to 8.
Okay. Is it like a one-song deal? Or
everybody gets one song.
Okay.
You bring your beats on a flash drive or your phone, or if you just want to freestyle, the DJ. Shout out to Logos the Critic, who DJs it every month with me.
Okay.
When I host, he can play like a beat for you. Sometimes people will bring like sometimes people get a little more elaborate. They bring like a guitar and they plug in an amp. I mean, it's kind of like if you have a musical talent. Sometimes people just do like spoken word or like a monologue. Or
sure.
Like, it's kind of like if you're an artist, come through. You get 3, 4, 5 minutes. Just do a piece.
Well, I certainly highly encourage it. It's as CMJ was saying, it's been a tradition for a lot of MCs to kind of cut their teeth at that venue.
I know a lot of people have said the first time they've ever been on stage rapping is at that open mic.
Yeah.
And like, yeah.
Yeah, man. So since you are starting to ascend into the higher levels of your rap career, do you have any sort of advice for an artist who is in the independent lane, who is just starting to get started, as far as how to start getting shows and how to kind of start building a name for themselves?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, first of all, like if this is really what you want to do, because sometimes people, they think they want to be a rapper and, maybe they do for 6 months. But like, if this is really what you want to do, it takes a lot of work. Don't expect to be raking in the money. Mm-hmm. Paying dues is a real thing. Like, but like, if you're really about it, like I was saying earlier, like if you really try to like get into the scene in a real, legitimate, organic way, and like, coming to things like the open mic and just, coming to shows that you're not on just to support other artists and meet people. And then, like a lot of times artists that I'll book on shows, it's people that just come out to our shows for 6 months straight. And it's like, yo, man, like we should get you on a show. Like,
right.
Just real, like organic type of shit. Cause the way to get ahead in the music scene is not spamming people you don't know on Facebook with your SoundCloud page. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you've gotten that shit before too. People just, it's like, I don't know who you are. Why you said like,
right.
No introduction. Just like, it's gotta be real support and real connections. Which like I said, I know it can be really intimidating. And so it's like, if you're, if I know a lot of people have like social anxiety, issues and that can be kind of hard to break through, but like, I guess you have to get out of your shell and you have to kind of be willing to learn. If you're trying to book shows, like one thing I always tell people too is like, don't wait to be put on shows. Like try to figure out how to book your own shows.
Sure.
Like, hit up venues, email them. Usually they have their contact info on their website. Like, don't be expecting Fridays or Saturdays at like 7th Street entry, you know what I mean? You got to kind of start at like the dive bars on Tuesday nights.
Exactly.
And if you're willing to do all that, like these aren't the most glamorous places, and it's, you're not going to get the Hollywood treatment off the bat, you know what I'm saying? Like, right. I still have trouble sometimes doing shit that I wish I could be doing now. I mean, it's always going to be somewhat of a struggle, but the more you do it, the more connections you make, the harder you work on your music and get better and just keep trying to improve and make and sacrifice a lot of other parts of your life to just make music a focal point. Because a lot of people I know too, like, they're not really in the scene. They'll do a show every once or twice a year and then they're not around. Like, you got to really be in the scene. Mm-hmm. But if you are in the scene, working hard, trying to learn over time, like, in my experience, like, things will start happening for you.
Sure.
It just takes a lot of work and effort, but
dope. Well, let's go ahead and get into the Lightning Gauntlet, and then we'll talk about what's happening currently for CMJ and where you can check them out. So the Lightning Gauntlet is a game that we play on Organized Grind, the podcast. It's just 3 random questions from a random batch of questions that I pick randomly. If you would like to submit your own question to be featured on Organized Grind, the podcast for any selection of artists that stops by, please email that question or group of questions to organizedgrindpodcast@gmail.com. But let's go ahead and put CMJ through the Lightning Gauntlet. Question number 1. Under the category of it seemed like a good idea at the time, what has been your worst idea?
I think I would say just in a general sense, I think sometimes we've had ideas maybe for, I guess I'll keep it music related.
Okay.
I haven't really lived a crazy life of like regrettable mistakes, but like in terms of in music,
You gotta live, CMJ.
Well, yeah, that's the thing about me too. I'm like a straight edge, sober, never smoked, never drank in my life. So
That's dope, though, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. But sometimes with shows, I think there's been certain ideas for shows where maybe we thought, okay, well, if we spend this amount of money trying to get this act, or if we pour a bunch of money into promotion, or that it'll reap the benefits of that, and that does not always work. So you gotta kind of know how to take calculated risks sometimes, and sometimes obviously you gotta take some risks sometimes, and sometimes things pay off, sometimes they don't, and it's always just a learning experience. But
that's a fucking jewel, man.
I would definitely say there's been some shows that we've done where sometimes the show was even dope for the people that were there, but sometimes it was like, oh, all right, we should have done things maybe a little differently.
I feel you. So basically the moral is the more money spent doesn't equate to a better outcome.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing too, is like kind of going back to what before you're saying, like giving people advice. Like being a musician is not cheap.
Right.
Like, and I don't mean like, I'm not talking about pay to play shit. I'm just talking about like don't do that shit. But like, you gotta spend some money on like pressing shit up or doing promo. And sometimes like if you're going on a tour, like those are not money making endeavors a lot of the time. Like,
right.
But like if you want to do that, sometimes you gotta do that to kind of get some experience under your belt, or kind of learn this works, this doesn't. And sometimes it pans out, sometimes it doesn't. But like at the very least, the experience and kind of what you learn from it, and sometimes even like you might lose a bunch of money on a show, but like if you made some kind of connection, that's happened to me.
Yeah.
So
for sure. Cool. Question number 2 of the Lightning Gauntlet: what do you forget to do more often than anything else?
I think sometimes I get caught up so much in just trying to chase certain things, like in terms of goals with music and stuff, that sometimes I neglect to kind of get personal, maybe financial situations in order, like the right way. Like, oh, I should maybe try to be more conscientious of how much income I'm bringing in every month.
Sure.
So, like, because there's a lot of things that I could probably I'd be better off financially if I remembered, oh, okay, this week I got to make sure I do X, Y, and Z to ensure that like I'm picking up maybe more hours at my day job, or I'm picking up just to kind of like speed things up a little bit. I've been trying to get better at kind of like making time for certain things that I'm not, that are going to pay off in the long run. 'Cause sometimes I get caught up in the moment of like, all right, I'm focused on this, and I'm forgetting to be focused on these other things.
Sure. All right. And then the last question here: if you could get everyone else in the world to share your viewpoint on one particular issue, what would it be?
There's a lot of things like, well, I guess a very easy one that I feel like should be common sense but isn't, is that you should not be following the ideologies of a person like Donald Trump.
Okay. Fair enough, man. I can dig it. Well, that was the Lightning Gauntlet with CMJ. This has been episode 25 with CMJ. So you brought a song today called Microphone Check. Is that correct?
Yep.
And that's off of your new project, the Joy Void Destroy EP.
Yes.
I've been peeping the album art, what I feel like the past month or whatever. So the anticipation has been building.
Yes.
The hype has been working. That's just from my own viewpoint as a consumer.
Dope, hell yeah.
I saw the album art and I was like, oh shit, my interest is piqued.
Dope.
I thought the art was pretty cool. You did the art yourself?
I did, yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty dope concept
Dope,
with the half head kind of sliced off. So that was really dope the way that you rolled that out. And now it's not out yet, right?
Yeah, so I'm dropping the EP next month, or I'm not sure when this podcast will be out.
This will be out like tonight.
Oh, Lord. Okay. So Friday, June 28th, I'm throwing a release party at Dayblock Brewing Company in downtown Minneapolis. The project I've been working on, I started working on it a little over a year ago. It's all produced by a producer named Infinity Sweet, who does a lot of really dope work. This is actually the first project I've ever done with just one producer. And it's 7 tracks. I'm really excited to put it out. There's really no features.
Who's on the production?
Infinity Sweet.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry about that.
He did all the beats.
Got it.
And so it's I'm just excited to put out new music. A lot of times I drop a project and then I kind of try to work on like the business aspects of setting up shows and making videos and just trying to kind of get other ducks in order with music shit. And so when I actually sit down and actually make a project, I really try to put my all into it because a lot of people put out like songs every week, and I try to go the other route of like I don't do that, but when I do put it out, like let me make a really tight body of work.
Sure. So are there a lot of plans behind this project right now that are in the works, or are you kind of just going to see how it works out?
Well, I'm trying to do like a visuals for every song on it.
Dope.
I've been making some lyric videos for the first time.
There's
actually a lyric video for Microphone Checkout that I made myself.
Tight.
I made a lyric video for another song on the project called Cold Day in Hell, and then I just put out a straight up full-fledged music video that I directed and edited. So I'm going to be working on some more videos, lyric videos also.
Super dope.
Rolling them out over time. Some are already done. They'll be coming soon.
Cool.
So be on the lookout. But yeah, a lot of cool stuff happening this year, so I'm excited.
Dope. So when that drops, where can people find it?
It'll be on all major streaming platforms, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Tidal. It should also be in a few local stores. I'm going to get it in Fifth Element. And
dope.
Yeah, so.
Well, shit, man. Thank you for coming through the podcast. Man. It's been fun.
Congrats on the podcast, too. Like I was telling you off mic, like this, it's dope to have a platform like this where like you're getting like people's whole stories, because a lot of times people you kind of know like little snapshots of them, but you don't know like the whole shit.
For sure.
And it's dope to have like, and the way you've been cranking them out, like I feel like I'm gonna like know everything about every artist in the scene soon. Like
that's definitely the plan, man. I'm definitely trying to touch anybody who's ever had a name on a flyer, anyone who has stories connected with people.
That's a long list too.
Yeah,
so.
Man, and it's
we got a dope scene here
hectic.
For sure.
Do you have any final words you'd like to say to the listeners?
One other thing that you were talking about, the open mic, I also host another event every month called Local Dope Shit. We do that every fourth Saturday of the month. I co-host it and curate it with a girl named Uncle T, who's another dope artist. When we book a lot of local acts, we also do an open mic portion at the end of the night. That's every fourth Saturday of the month at Can Wonderland. And we're doing a fundraiser show. Next month, we're going to be getting some like local dope shit merch and things like that. We're trying to stack some funds to kind of build for the rest of the year. But that's also been going really well. So shout out to everybody that's been supporting local dope shit. And we're constantly throwing events around town. And like I said, I'm trying to just work with good people, people that are really about it, and people that kind of have the same goals and things that I'm trying to do. So shout out to everybody out there that's been supporting me in the local Twin Cities scene. So we need more of that, so thank you.
Yeah, and if people want to find your music or find you, how can they find you?
You can find me at www.christophermichaeljensen.com. Christopher Michael Jensen on Facebook, Twitter at Chris Mike Jensen, Instagram at Chris Mike Jensen. If you just go to my website, all the links are on there. So
dope. Well, yeah, this has been episode 25 of Organized Grind, the podcast with Oracle Uno. We're gonna go ahead and get into this joint off of the upcoming Joy Void Destroy EP. This is Christopher Michael Jensen with Microphone Check. As always, peace and love.
Organized Grind with Oracle Uno. Recorded live at Graft Fruit Studios in South Minneapolis.
I've had a lot on my mind, and I'm just gonna try to get it all out.
Keep living and keep going, I keep spitting and keep flowing, keep breathing and keep looking, I keep dreaming and keep pushing. Microphone check 1 2 1 2. I said microphone check 1 2 1 2. Testing, yo, I'm ready. You, well, if you're ready, then I'm ready to groove. I'm just looking for my inner peace, in a seat scribbling emotions over symphonies from infinity. And infinity's how many possibilities that I could live to see manifest here literally. I'm like a mix between Chuck D and Chun-Li, using knowledge to fight battles and succeed. The next successor of this spit is this grade 7. Yes, and the last name's Jensen, not Jetson, but I am the future like Elroy, rapping till I'm red in the face like Hellboy. Carry a legacy like luggage to a bellboy, and shoulder that responsibility on my deltoids. An aspiration of ascertaining the accolades and gaining press coverage, in love with the public's affirmation and obsession with getting it, and I have to make it. Ain't succumbing to a dry spell, no evaporation. So I rinse my hands while I soak my feet, diving in head first, man. And I don't believe in astrology, but I'm probably a Gemini, outcasted from the masses, trying to rectify all my shortcomings as I fall down like a thwomp. Cause these worries got me bogged down like a swamp. Time's of the essence, stressing as the clock's ticking. I'm picking up the story, writing as the plot thickens. Keep living and keep going, I keep spitting and keep flowing, keep breathing and keep looking, I keep dreaming and keep pushing. Microphone check 1 2 1 2. I said microphone check 1 2 1 2. Testing, yo, I'm ready. You, well, if you're ready, then I'm ready to groove. I had that lyrical combustion, songs like butane, found meaning underground, then I went and made 2 tapes. I'm CM Cool J, told you it's a new age, crafted an EP to ignite a few flames. Cause things are different since I started this, had to find the fire to get the spark again like an arsonist. I'm an artisan who's building like some architects, but never fuck with the fake shit or the artifice. So fuck the cars, fuck a mansion and a chandelier, I just wanna try to save the world like a planeteer. Yeah, I got heart like my T, with enough moxie to make moves at Mach speed. Cause I'm way ahead of your sound, I got thermal verbals since a juvenile, 400-degree inferno, top of the thermometer, the rest turn cold, while I'm getting rough and rugged as a dirt road. I'm like a gerbil to these rappers round, I'm running circles and styling on them like an animal, a fur coat. I'm in Merc mode, I'm Angela Merkel, leading everything first place since the first note. Otherworldly words flow through wormholes, but when worse comes to worse though, I just work mode. I came to rain in Minnesota like I'm purple, with lines so sick, germaphobes hate my journals. Keep living and keep going, I keep spitting and keep flowing, keep breathing and keep looking, I keep dreaming and keep pushing. Microphone check 1 2 1 2. I said microphone check 1 2 1 2. Testing, yo, I'm ready. You, well, if you're ready, then I'm ready to groove.